every chain, break every chain, break every chain. I just want to say a pleasant good afternoon to those of you tuning in live on Global 99.5 Cable TV 974. Truly, there is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain. So, whatever that chain is you face with today, the power of Jesus Christ can break that chain. We give God thanks for waking us up this morning, for sparing our lives to see a new day, a brand new day, to be alive in the land of the living. And for that, we say thanks. Those of you listening on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, Facebook, Zoom, YouTube, whichever means, I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm also inviting you to tell your friends, family members, and others to share the video and join us, be a part of it. The WhatsApp line is 433-6917. 433-6917. You can WhatsApp us on this show today as we talk about diabetes, a very interesting topic, something persons are interested in. We have a doctor on who's going to talk about diabetes, who specializes in taking care of your feet. And so if you know somebody affected with diabetes who have a challenge with their feet, we ask you to be a part of it. You know somebody who wants to be educated, want more information in regards to diabetes, we ask you to be a part of it. Joining us later will be our dietitian. We'll talk about what you could eat, what you can't eat on this program, Transforming Lives. I want to offer my apologies to my co-host, Jackie Gardner, who had a situation she has to deal with. So she may join us later on, but our new host is Kendra Vo, a partner with me in a number of programs at the Department of Corrections and the Boys and Girls School. And so she will be co-hosting the show with me today. And so with that, I want to just say welcome to those of you. Right now, Kendra, I'm going to ask that you unmute your mic and introduce yourself to the audience. Kendra?
Okay. Hi, Dave.
Pastor Williams, can you unmute Kendra, please?
Yes, so he just did because I was not able to just a minute ago. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So hello, everybody. It's great to be here. I am Kendra Bow, as Dave Williams said, and we actually work together on a few projects. And I am a educator and a counselor, and my passion is youth development. And so you can find me in various arenas doing things with the youth of our nation. And so it's a pleasure to be on today.
Okay, folks, we just want to say thanks. We want to offer condolences to those who are burying loved ones, those who are in mourning over loved ones. And so we offer our condolences to them. And so I just want to introduce our guest to you. And then, Kendra, I know you have some questions that you wish to ask our guest. Our guest today, folks, is Dr. Monique Mitchell, proud alumnus of the R.M. Bailey High School and the University of the Bahamas. She completed an Associate of Science degree in nursing at the College of the Bahamas in 1988 in the second inaugural class. She worked as a registered nurse in medical surgery and psychiatric, and she holds a bachelor's degree of science in nursing with a minor in community health. She went on to complete a Master's of Public Health in Health Promotion and Education from East Tennessee State University. And she obtained a Doctor of Podiatry Medicine from Barry University, a board-certified wound specialist. She's also a Caribbean certified diabetes educator, special interest in health and wellness. She's married and enjoys spending time with the family and engaging in creative arts. And so, folks, that is Dr. Monique Mitchell for you. That's our guest who's going to talk about diabetes. She also specializes in foot care, as I said. And so Kendra has a number of questions that Kendra will ask her. And then my next guest is Miss Shandera Smith. I'm going to tell you a little about her. Both of these ladies I know personally, who have also helped me in my own personal life with whatever the challenges that I have faced. And so they are well qualified And I'm looking forward to the show because there's a lot that we can learn. Personally, especially myself, whom I've been told as a doctor, because of a family history, I would be what they would call pre-diabetic. Anyway, they will tell us about it. So Shandera says, I've always had an intense passion for health and wellness. Somebody, can you mute the mic, please? Just check the mics. One of my greatest desires is to see people enjoying their lives in the fullest, experiencing the best health. Right. And she says to accomplish this with God's help, she pursued a Bachelor's of Science degree in nutrition and dietetics and a Master of Science degree in nutrition from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine's Mona campus. Respectfully, she is a licensed dietitian and nutritionist and a certified diabetes educator. Currently employed at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, part-time lecturer, University of the Bahamas, and owner of Trinity Wellness Center. Enjoy traveling, writing, helping others, baking, modeling, and teaching. And so, folks, I just introduced our guest to you, Dr. Monique Mitchell and Miss Shandera Smith. So I'm going to just turn it over to my to Dr. Mitchell, to Shandera Smith, to share maybe for the next 10, 15 minutes, perhaps, our presentation. And then my co-host Kendra, she has some questions she wants to ask us, you, both of you. And then we're going to open it up to the audience for the question and answer period. Kendra, sorry, I just want to say, Jackie may join us. If she do, I'm sure she may join in with 1 or 2 questions. But let's invite Dr. Monique Mitchell for about 10 minutes to share. Then Ms. Shandera Smith. Then Kendra has some questions she want to ask you. And we're going to open it to the audience. Dr. Mitchell.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about one of the things I love to talk about.
Yes.
Well, 2 of the things, diabetes and defeat. And so I didn't prepare a presentation for this, but we could definitely talk about it. So I can begin by giving a little background about what diabetes is, given the foundation stuff. And then we can go forward like that, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so World Diabetes Day is celebrated every year on the 14th of November. And that date is significant because it's actually the birthday of one of the gentlemen or one of the doctors who discovered insulin. And what they did 100 years ago was develop insulin, which really revolutionized the treatment of diabetes and saved many, many, many lives. And so as a celebration of that fact and to recognize Dr. Banting, I think it is, we celebrate World Diabetes Day on his birthday, November 14th. And this is the largest awareness day for diabetes. It involves 160 countries that are participating, and worldwide, there's a lot of activity going on around this time and making sure that persons know what diabetes is and why it's important for us to do our best to take care of ourselves, to either prevent it or to manage diabetes. So the theme for the World Diabetes Day this year, and actually for the next 2 years, is, hold on 1 second, I want to read it so I make sure I get it correct. Access to diabetes care, if not now, when? And that is a really, really, really important theme because a lot of persons with diabetes may not have access to the care that they need. And we're going to talk, I hope that we get to the point where we can talk about some of the challenges to access that specifically speaks to this theme. And what is also important for you to know is, you can't really see what I'm wearing, but I'm wearing a light blue shirt in commemoration of the World Diabetes Day. The symbol for World Diabetes is a blue circle, a complete blue circle, like it's sky blue. It's a light blue and it's sky blue for a reason, because in 2007, after the UN passed the resolution for the World Diabetes Day, the blue circle became the global symbol for diabetes. And why that is important, the sky is something that we all share, no matter where you are in the world. And so it felt that persons, no matter where they are in the world, once they have diabetes, we are all, even though we're separated by distance and places and location, countries, whatever, we all share the sky. And so that blue circle will connect us, all of us, as either persons who have diabetes or caregivers of persons who provide care to persons with diabetes. So I really, really appreciate that. And so I'm sure around this time you see a lot of people wearing a blue circle. Some people still wear a ribbon, but that is what the circle is for.
Okay, thanks. So, Miss Shandera Smith, then maybe you might want to share briefly before Miss Kendra asks you some questions.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, and so like Monique said, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, especially as it relates to food. Okay, so when it comes to diabetes, of course, nutrition plays a major part, and I like to be there to help people, to guide them so that they can actually live longer lives with better quality of life as well. And of course, we know that lots of persons in the Bahamas has pre-diabetes or diabetes, some kind of diabetes, but we are here to help. And as Dr. Mitchell mentioned about the theme, we know that there are a lot of barriers for access to care. And sometimes the barrier could just be, you just don't know, could be ignorance. And so we want to bring more awareness to persons that, hey, we are here to help you to be able to manage your blood sugar levels, to help you to have overall good health, excellent health, because we want everyone to be healthy, as the Bible said, be in health, not just spiritually, but we want to be healthy holistically.
Okay, thanks very much. Kendra Bo has Miss Kendra Bo has many questions that she will ask you, and then the WhatsApp line is 433-6917. The persons want to send me a WhatsApp, and they want me to also ask a question on their behalf. 433-6917. Miss Kendra Bo.
Yes. So, we often hear, and thank you, Dr. Mitchell, for explaining it a little bit and helping us have a better understanding of diabetes and the day of November 14th. But, as we live in the Bahamas, we would often hear certain things thrown around a lot. We hear diabetes, we hear hypertension, but we still go get our chicken in the bag. We like our fried food, and I'm guilty of it as well. Okay. But we hear these things, but not to the point where you feel like, oh, you really need to be concerned about health and wellness. It's like you grow up eating certain foods, you grow up with a certain lifestyle, family members with a certain lifestyle, and it just seems like it's something that you just follow in and you just continue a pattern. And I remember in my family, I know that there are a few persons who are diabetic in my family. In fact, I have an aunt who actually was told just a few days ago that she may have to have gotten a few of her toes amputated.
Oh my goodness.
But what actually happened is life seemed to come back to that area. And so for the time being, that has been that surgery, the need for that surgery has been canceled. But even though you hear of it, it may be in your family line, it's like, I feel like we don't really appreciate the need, understand, and also appreciate the need for health and wellness, and like why we should be concerned as it relates to diabetes. So can any one of you just address that? Like, what exactly does it do to the body? And why should we really be concerned?
Okay, I'll start, and Dr. Smith. Ms. Smith will jump right in. So diabetes is a chronic disease. So I'm sure we hear nowadays, you hear NCDs or non-communicable diseases, which is a very popular word that we use, and that means chronic diseases that are not passed from, like an infection like COVID. It's in your genes, or it's passed from family to family, but it's not infectious. So that's what a chronic disease is. So diabetes is a chronic disease, and let's just break it down to the simplest, the easiest way to remember it. The pancreas is an organ within the body. It's in the abdomen. The pancreas produces insulin. Whenever we eat food, especially the starches like the bread, the rice, and those things, and Shandera will talk a little bit more about those things in a minute. But whenever we eat those foods are broken down into glucose or sugar. Sugar is the fuel for our bodies. Just like when you go to the gas station, you go to Texaco, Esso, or something like that, and you go and you put the gas in your car, now you can drive and do whatever else you need to do with your car. So when we eat food and that turns to glucose, that is now fuel for our bodies. But that fuel is in the blood. It cannot get out of the blood and into the cell or the brain or the hand or the foot or wherever it is. It's needed unless we have insulin. So if we do not have insulin or don't have enough insulin, then we have diabetes. So type 1 diabetes is the type of diabetes where there is no insulin being produced. And that's usually in children or younger persons. Okay, so that's type 1. Type 2 diabetes also has to do with insulin, but it also not only with the supply of the insulin, but it also has to do with the response to the insulin. So sometimes we do produce enough insulin in type 2 diabetes, but the body is resistant or is not responding to that insulin in the way that it should be. And you mentioned some of the things that contribute to that insulin resistance or not being able to respond to that insulin. We talked about the obesity, the way we eat, the fatty foods, and all of those things that Ms. Smith will talk a little bit more about. But definitely those are the two major types of diabetes. The third major type of diabetes is gestational diabetes, or diabetes that occurs in pregnancy. When the woman is pregnant, you know, we tend to put on some more weight, we tend to eat whatever we want and all this stuff. And so sometimes that can increase your risk of getting diabetes. And so that is the third major form of diabetes. So Dave mentioned pre-diabetes. So I'll have Ms. Smith talk a little bit more about pre-diabetes, which is before you get diabetes, you have a condition where you are at risk for diabetes. So I'll let her speak a little bit more about that.
Okay, so pre-diabetes is basically a condition where your body or where your blood sugar levels is not high enough to be classified as having diabetes and not low enough as being classified as the not having diabetes. So you're sort of in between there. And so what you do can influence whether you actually develop diabetes or you sort of not develop diabetes. So that's a very critical time. So this is where, so let's say you may have some symptoms. Let's say you may be peeing a lot, hungry, thirsty. You may have even perhaps you may or may not have weight loss, but weight loss definitely comes when you definitely have diabetes. Sometimes persons have what we call acanthosis nigricans, it's like a dark area in the back of your neck. Could be on your joints or your elbow, your knees, around the groin area. So you could wash until, and that would not change. Okay, so that's showing some signs of insulin resistance. And then, of course, you know, if you have a lifestyle where you're not very active, I think Ms. Bo mentioned about eating certain types of
Fried
foods.
food.
Yeah, so you know,
Yeah, child, chicken in the bag, chicken in the
yes,
bag.
there's chicken in the bags ain't helping you. There's chicken in the bag actually increase the chances for getting diabetes. Okay, and you mentioned about the family. So your environment, all right, because the food environment or the exercise environment, when they are not up to par, even though you may have, so let's say you have, let's say your mommy or your grandmother had diabetes and you're following the same lifestyle trend as your mom and Grammy, then 2 to 1, you're gonna have the same illnesses that he or she may have. All right, and so you have to make a change somewhere in order to decrease your chances for developing diabetes. So when persons come to me with pre-diabetes, I try to get them on a plan, try to intervene so they would go back into the normal state as opposed to go on and developing what I call full-blown diabetes.
Okay. Okay, that's excellent. That's excellent. One of the other things I want to note, and that will be Dr. Smith, is I noticed you're a nutritionist and dietitian, which I thought is so interesting because my mom actually, she used to be, before she retired, a senior baker down at Sanders Rehabilitation Center. And I remember she was telling me about someone in her office area who was the senior dietitian. And when she said it, I know for me, it just sounded so strange. It's like, okay, we have dietitians in the Bahamas, you know? And
Not
then
many, but
when,
we have.
right, not many. And then, what was so interesting about it, I remember when I think they was looking for someone to add to the area. And I said, this is not something in school when, they're promoting careers and all of those different things that they actually highlight to say, what, is there anybody, can I get a show of hands of anybody who wants to be a dietitian or a nutritionist? And it's just so interesting. And I think it just goes to our culture again, as it relates to health and wellness, because it's a field that definitely more people can definitely go in. So I wanted to find out from you, what led you to make that decision to actually go in that path?
Oh, wow. So actually, when I graduated from high school, I actually wanted to study medicine. And then when I went to COB, I actually did zone biochem. And so the chemistry was whipping me. And so, so I was like, Lord, is this the way for me or not? That wasn't happening. So I really prayed about it. And I asked God to show me where he wants me to go. I always wanted to go somewhere in the medical field or in the health field. And so even before I asked, I just had, in fact, when I wanted to be a medical doctor, I actually wanted to be more like natural doctor or holistic doctor. I don't really like the medication, that kind of symptom medication thingy. So when I was studying at COB, of course, City Market was right across the street, and they sold these prevention magazines, and that's how I got to know about the field of nutrition, because it wasn't probably less than 5 nutritionists was probably here at the time, or I didn't really know about them because I grew up in Andrews, so I wasn't as exposed. And then actually Dr. Mitchell, she was the one who actually told me about Miss Penn, who was the head dietitian at the Ministry of Health. So I went in and I spoke to Miss Penn about it, and she gave me some advice. And so in 2000, I started my bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics, and from then, but from there I did my master's, and now working. But this is my 16th year in, and I can't tell you this is my thing. I love doing what I do, and I know that God actually guided me this direction to actually pursue this. So yes.
Wow, that is awesome. That's awesome. I think, see, when I hear it, and even when I hear you both speak, there is a passion and there's a joy as it comes to this particular area. And so it would really be good somehow, particularly in terms of when there is career and awareness and things of that nature, somehow persons who are listening in would think of incorporating persons in terms of dietitian, health and wellness, and also with diabetes, for us to start in terms of the school level to just bring awareness to our teenagers and our younger children so that they can make healthier choices as they are growing, instead of waiting until you're already grown like me and now you're trying to make some changes and it's a little bit more difficult.
You can still do it.
Yes. There's still hope.
You can still do
Yes,
it.
there is still hope. There's still hope. And then the other part of it, as we were talking in terms of the introductions, and I think it's Dr. Michelle, you specialize as it relates to podiatry, the foot.
Yes.
So give us a little background as to like what led you to say, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to focus on podiatry. Give us a little bit as to how you got there.
Okay, interesting. So I am actually like Ms. Smith. I've always wanted to be in health, and I've always wanted to be a doctor as well from young. And so you come from a certain sector of the population, and so you're limited in certain ways. So my first degree was actually in nursing. I went to COB back in the day, UB now. And I was actually in the second class that did nursing at UB. Before that, nursing was done at the School of Nursing. And so once I finished my associate degree, I worked for a little while as a nurse and enjoyed that. But I know I wanted to be, I wanted to go somewhere else in health. And I have a kind of a roundabout story. No, I didn't go directly to podiatry. So after I finished nursing, I went off and I completed my bachelor's degree. And I went into actual health education and health promotion. And that's how I got actually to podiatry, because at the time I was educating patients who had diabetes about diabetes, how what to eat, what to do, and how to manage their diabetes. And however, at that time, they were not too interested in that. They wanted to know about the foot. They wanted to know how to protect their feet, because at that time, and now too, there were a lot of amputations going on. A lot of persons were losing their feet or part of their feet to amputations, and that is what they were interested in. So at that time, I was not know too much about that. So I went and I found the only podiatrist I knew was Dr. Johnson. And he actually told me about what to tell the patients, what to educate them on. And then after that, you know, I showed an interest in podiatry. And so he encouraged me to actually go off and do my studies. I returned to school for a long time, I feel like, but I completed and successfully came home about 13 years ago, actually. I studied in Florida and did residency there as well. And then I returned home and I've been enjoying it. It doesn't even feel like 13 years because it's so fulfilling every day to go to work and be able to help somebody and to help them to manage their challenges or get pain-free or whatever it is that they present with. And so it's really, really rewarding. And I agree with you, Kendra. We need to encourage our young people to look in other ways for careers. And you know, as a podiatrist, there are actually only 4 of us in the country.
Wow.
And all of us in New Providence. And
Wow.
So it's definitely an underserved area. We had two persons died recently, but it's an underserved area. And we definitely need young persons who have an aptitude for science and who are interested to go off and come back. I've actually interviewed about 4 persons who went to do podiatry and none of them returned home. They're all working in the United States. So we definitely need persons to go, but we need them to come back home as well, because this is an area we need. As persons are getting older, as the obesity, as the increasing number of persons with diabetes, all of those areas increase foot problems. And so we definitely need persons to go off, study podiatry and come back. But for now, we're trying our best, yes.
Wow, that is awesome. You ladies both have phenomenal stories. And it's so awesome that in both of your stories, you talk about someone who helped along the way to help guide you. And then it also was like you became that change that you wanted to see. So as you saw your patients that you were seeing and they had an issue in a particular area, you actually became a solution for that area. So I think that is really phenomenal. So as we talk about the feet, and I'm going to come back to the questions on the feet, because like I had just said earlier in the intro, that I have an aunt who's diabetic, and she was almost on the verge of having to have her toes amputated. So I want to talk a little bit more about the feet and how we can better care for the feet if you have diabetes, and what are some of the things you can do. But I want to jump into, before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit more about health and what can we do, whether you are pre-diabetic or not, but just knowing our numbers. I remember hearing either it was on a talk show or somewhere, but someone was giving like the numbers for the Bahamas as relates to a number of things. And we literally were across the board, like between the top 5. Like when we were talking about they were talking about different countries in terms of diabetes and hypertension and just different things. And like the Bahamas was actually up there, like within the top 5. And it was so interesting to hear that. But yet again, the wider population still seems to go along with this same way that we do things. So when it comes to health and wellness, what can we do as a nation to be healthier?
So Ms. Smith is going to talk a little bit about that, but let me give you some of those numbers you were talking about. For example, our prevalence in the Bahamas, or what percentage of our population have diabetes? It's about 12% of our population have diabetes. An additional 7%, 6.8% have pre-diabetes. So remember, Ms. Smith talked about that number in between where you either you're not completely normal. Your numbers are not completely normal, but they're not high enough to be diabetes. So between the 12 and 7, that's almost 20%, okay, of our population having diabetes, pre-diabetes or diabetes. Because in the pre-diabetes section, persons are still getting damage, you know, to their heart, to their eyes, to their kidneys, to all different parts of the body. It's occurring. So we still have to consider that. And about almost 23% of persons had never had their blood sugar examined. They never knew, they never had it checked, so they don't know that they're at risk for diabetes or what their numbers are. But another statistic that I found interesting was that 55.3% of our population who are on medication for their diabetes are not taking it.
Wow.
They're not taking it. So you just talked about it, Ms. Bo, about persons are not taking it serious. So yes, I thought that was very frightening for me, you know, because if you know you're diabetic, you've been ordered medication and you just not taking it, 55%, that's the majority, you know, that's the majority of the persons. So
You're the ones who didn't claim it.
yes, those are the ones. And then as a result of that, of the diabetics, only 32.7% had an eye exam, only 23.9% had a foot exam. And so you can see why so much persons may end up with challenges in terms of having an amputation or going blind or those things like that, because they're not receiving the care or access to the care that they need. So, but before, so Ms. Smith will tell you a little bit more about what we can do to prevent and to live a healthy life.
Yes, and Ms. Smith, before you start now, I hope you're not going to tell us that we have to do away with the chicken in the bag for good. That somehow we still could have a little chicken in the bag in there, and then we could add some, yeah, we could incorporate that, still have some vegetables and salad, but we still could get some chicken in the bag. So let's go, Ms. Smith.
Because myself.
Yeah, think about that one.
Okay. All right. So let me address the chicken in the bag first. Okay. So, okay. So we're not saying that you can't have the chicken in the bag every now and then, probably like twice, 3 times a month the most. But when and if you do have your chicken in the bag, we want you to have a nice salad with it. Okay, so the salad sort of balances, not sort of balance, it actually balances your meal. So with the typical meal, we like to say have half of your plate being vegetables, a quarter being starch, a quarter being protein. So let's say you have the chicken in the bag, the chicken will be a protein, the starch will be the fries will be a starch, and you have a nice green salad will be your vegetables. Now I have to say, and I say vegetables cover a lot of dietary sins. Okay, so make sure whenever you have any meals high in fat, sugar, or salt, always have a salad with it, because it's going to help to ease some of the inflammation that you're going to wound your body with. All right, so make sure I have balanced meal if you're going to have your chicken in the bag. Okay.
Okay.
So
I feel a little better.
Awesome. But if you want that same, a similar experience with your chicken in the bag, just have you can sort of oven roast your chicken where it actually goes to high temperature, and let's say you have that crispy outing coating that you want, you can have that, and you can have your fries baked rather than having them drenched in so much oil. So that'd be a healthier way to actually have that particular meal.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we need to have a word with Bamboo Shack and Sami's Chicken and the Dirties and Royals and those, so that they could now offer some alternatives, as a part of their corporate responsibility to help the Bahamian people eat a little healthier, that now they try some of these things that Ms. Smith is letting us know. So Ms. Smith, continue. I think Dave and I are going to have to send a flyer or some information to these organizations to let them know what they need to do for the Bahamian people.
Yes,
and you can order salad you can order salad at Bamboo Shack.
Yeah, I started to do that. Yes. It's going to cost a little bit more for those listening in. It's going to cost a little more. So I think when I did it, I think it's $10.50. If you get the chicken with the salad, it's $10.50. So it costs a little bit more. Now, I can tell you, what's the one on Farrington Road? DNC. They make a really nice salad at DNC to go. And you can still get your chicken and fries and your salad too. But they make a nice salad. So yeah, I've been trying. I ain't say I did yet, but I've been trying.
Good. So it's making those small changes that are actually gonna end up what we call you have great rewards in the end. So the small changes you keep doing, and then additionally, if you order that meal, make sure to try to have some water rather than washing it down with soda. Okay. Other things to do to prevent diabetes and even to manage or treat diabetes would be regular physical activity and exercise. Okay, and of course, you can see the statistics. Most of our population are not involved in physical activity and exercise as we
Why
actually
are you
should be.
talking but me so bad, Miss Smith? Why are you
Oh
talking
boy.
but me? Why I may be on live radio and you talking but me so bad?
You started the average
Okay, go
behavior.
ahead.
And so
I know
and so
Dave actually goes walking quite often. He goes
Dave
walking quite
said,
often. So yeah, he's doing well. He's doing well.
so
So
yeah,
Kenzo gotta come join me.
as I
I
said,
gotta
join them.
try. I gotta
Yeah.
try. I have to, but
Yes.
I definitely wouldn't be at your pace. I want to move a
No,
little
no,
bit
no.
slow.
Okay, move at your
I'll
own
slow down and wait
pace.
for you, Kenzo, no problem.
You can catch him up and pass him down soon if you keep
I'm
it up. So we
passing
like
down
that.
sooner. All right. So
Right.
so Miss Smith, you can continue in terms of what are the things we could do to become healthier.
Yes. So along with exercise, I just want to mention too that, so let's say Dave in this program, right? So let's say he exercises an hour, let's say 5 days a week, but he does no other physical activity throughout the day. That ain't as beneficial as it should be. So in addition to exercising your 45 minutes, half hour or 1 hour, you want to be active throughout the day. So you don't just sit down for hours at a time. And they say now sitting is worse than smoking, I think. Yeah, so smoking is really bad. So just imagine sitting down all day. That's also bad for our health. So be active
Oh
through.
my God, you just gave me a headache. I'm so sick. What did you say the statistic again? Sitting is worse than smoking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I spend a lot of time at my computer working. So it means I might as well go smoke a cigarette then.
Well,
No, we ain't saying
don't.
that.
We want you to go and exercise. You want you to also,
Get
so
up.
every hour, so every 45 minutes to 1 hour, you want to get up and move around. Or even if you're sitting at your desk, if you have space under your desk, like move your feet around, move your arms, but you can just get up and move around for about 5 to 10 minutes and then resume your work.
I
But make
think
sure
we're going to need to do a health and wellness video, particularly for persons who work at the computer, being able to show them some of the things that they need to do. Because I can tell you what you're saying is so true, because especially with the pandemic, I'm not moving as much because you're at home a little bit more. And when I'm working from the computer, like you can feel the impacts of it. So I definitely think there's the need to raise a little bit more awareness of what people can do just to help counteract some of the things that may happen, particularly as you had to be at home a little bit more.
Yes. Yes. Okay, and continue. So we want to make sure that we eat healthy as well. Now, that may sound like a curse word to some people to eat healthy, but we want people to make better food choices. You want to eat real foods. So when you go shopping for your groceries, make sure the majority of food in your cart or on your trolley, make sure that most of it is your produce, your fruits, your vegetables. They should make up half of the diet or even a little bit more, especially if you have these chronic illnesses already. And so, as I mentioned before, when you have half of your plate being vegetables, a quarter being starch and a quarter being protein, I just want to show you something. I just want to show something on the screen very quickly. So we want our plate to look like that. All right. Half veggies, quarter starch, quarter protein. So whatever starch you want, whether it's rice, pasta, potatoes, cassava, pumpkin, plantain, they go in that quarter section there. For your protein, whether it's chicken, fish, vegetarian entrees, peas, beans, you want to go in that quarter section. And any veggies that you want to decide there, but we want you to eat more raw veggies. Once you eat more raw veggies, it actually benefits the body much more than having the cooked ones, especially when they're overcooked. So we want your plates to be balanced. So every meal that you have, you want it to look like this in terms of the proportions of the different food groups. And you see the fruit on the side, you want your food, the fruits are actually the best adjusted during the morning period. So have a fruit as an appetizer to your main course. And we say eat breakfast like a king or queen, lunch like a prince or princess, and supper like a pauper. Okay, so the whole concept is that as you're up and around during the day, when you have that big breakfast, you're able to burn the energy off. And so in the Bahamas, we actually practice it the opposite way. We have a light breakfast and a huge dinner or supper. Okay, so
You're
when we
talking
go into
bad with
bed,
me again. You're
we're
talking
only,
bad with me again.
we're only stored energy, all right? So that leaves more to
Yes.
regain. All right, so we want
But you
to,
okay, so I'm looking at this plate that you have here. And definitely a healthy plate, a healthy choice. But you know, for those of us who have not been eating healthy, this is where the challenge comes in. Because you would start like this and you feel like you're punishing yourself. You're looking at the plate and you're like, oh my God, I gotta go eat this raw broccoli. And you're gonna start and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I want to be healthy. I want to do this. And you start eating, and it's like, okay, you know what? No, next time I can boil those broccoli and I can make sure I add my salt and butter and make sure that got a little flavor so it tastes better. And then you add a little bit of the, you know, your salt and butter and stuff it so it has a little better taste. And then you get the salad and you're like, okay, you know you ain't supposed to put not too much dressing, but by the time you then douse that in terms of the dressing, you sort of already sort of shifted the whole meal plan a little bit.
but
And
guess what?
then you go back to you little by little, you start to go back to what you've been familiar and accustomed to. How do we stay on track? Like after listening to you and you feel motivated again, how do you stay on track? You know, and that's what gets me. Like, how do we stay on track when we know, okay, we need to make this shift, we need to make this adjustment, but really the food doesn't, your taste buds haven't adjusted just yet to say this is what you really like or want to be eating because you've been so used to eating bad for so long. How do you stay on track until you get to that place that those healthier foods are what you are now craving?
Okay, so first of all, remember earlier I said that God wants us to be healthy, right? And so you pray. You pray to ask God for the strength and the courage to actually make those healthy food choices. What I like to encourage people to do too is to do it like a detox. Not to make those extreme detoxes, but just you could even have something as simple as lemon and water every morning. That helps to clean your system. And it also helps decrease your appetite for those not so healthy foods. And you learn as much as you can about nutrition and you make gradual changes. All right. So let's say you're used to eating half a plate of peas and rice with some chicken or fish and little or no vegetables. So I don't expect you to go to this at your next meal. All right. So what you do is you start to cut down the amount of peas and rice you eat. And as you cut that down, you add vegetables to your meal. Then you do that for us. I don't say take forever to do it, but you do it as you feel comfortable, as you move to do it. Make sure do it gradually so that you actually get used to it. Psychologically, it could be a major blow to us to our psychology if we just or our behaviors if we just try to make a change. That's cold turkey. So do it gradually. Now for persons who are in crisis, I call it. So if your sugar's out of whack, your pressure out of whack, of all of your numbers out of whack, I try to get you here as soon as possible because I know the benefits it's going to have on you. All right.
Okay.
So do it gradually, and then you will be able to make it more have a habit as a lifestyle. Okay, as opposed to just do it one day and decide not to do it the next day. Then maybe a year down the road you decide to do it again. All right. So you want to make this a part of your lifestyle.
Okay, that you've given me some hope. I feel a little bit better, a little lighter,
Awesome.
you know, that I can do that. So thank you so much for that. Now, Dr. Mitchell, we want to go to talking about the feet and what are the signs and the symptoms people need to take a look at if they're diabetic, and how do they care for the feet so that they don't have to face an amputation? And you can take us away with that.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to just mention what Dr. Smith, Ms. Smith just talked about. You know, you got to recognize it's a gradual process. Don't expect for it to happen overnight, because a lot of people give up easily because they feel like, oh, you know, if you miss one day as opposed to the next, it's okay. You're in a process, so it takes a little while to get there. You're not gonna do it perfectly one day, you know, all of a sudden you're gonna take a little while to get there. So I find a lot of people that happens to them as well. Okay. So diabetes and the feet. So we talk a little bit about how diabetes affect the feet first. So diabetes, we talked about what diabetes is. And so because of that high blood sugar, the persistent high blood sugar, not just a one-time thing, but over time, that high blood sugar Could be a A1C that's greater than 7. It could be just a regular fasting that's high. That blood sugar can affect the feet in five major ways I like to think about. One, it affects the blood flow so that there's less blood flowing down to the feet. The second is it damages the nerves. You know, the nerves are the things that we feel with. And so it causes numbness, tingling, and burning. And this is the danger area, because if you can't feel, that is how most persons will get injured or cause damage to their feet. They get stuck with something, or they get burned, or they get something like that. And then they will definitely end up with either an ulcer or an amputation. And so the third way that diabetes affects the feet is that it can actually change the shape of the foot. It can change the arch. You know, you have a nice curved arch. Sometimes the arch goes the other way. That'll increase the risk of increased pressure and then increased ulcers and amputation to the feet. The fourth way that diabetes affects the feet is by actually affecting the skin and the nails as well, but the skin, the temperature mechanism in the skin could cause the skin to be dry and cracked, which increase risk of ulcers and wounds on the feet, increased risk of fungus nails that can actually penetrate the skin under the nail. And then of course, the number 5 is the immune system. Diabetes affects the neutrophils. That high blood sugar causes the neutrophils to go to sleep. They can't work because it's too much sugar in the blood. And so they're no longer working to kill off bacteria and viruses and things that are causing infection. So when the diabetes affects the feet in that way, it increases the risk of ulcers and amputation, which are dreaded, because those are the most dreaded complications of diabetes. In fact, every 20 seconds in the worldwide, there's somebody who's getting an amputation, and so happy that your aunt did not have to go through that.
Yes.
But what you're gonna hear today, you're gonna help her to prevent that from happening altogether. Because 85% of all amputations are they had an ulcer first. So we can prevent that person from getting that ulcer or that wound, that sore. You know, we call it a lot of different words here in the Bahamas, but if you could prevent them from getting that ulcer, that wound, that sore on the feet, then that you can almost prevent those amputations from occurring. So what are some things that persons can do? Well, the first thing is we want to get persons to prevent. Well, first I want to tell you, Kendra, more persons die in 5 years from having an ulcer or an amputation than persons who have prostate cancer or breast cancer. I bet you don't believe that.
Wow.
But that's true. That's true. But we don't hear about it as much. We hear about prostate month, and we hear about breast cancer month, and we hear about all these things. But in 5 years, if you have an amputation, it's more likely that you are going to be dead as opposed to that person who has breast cancer or prostate cancer. So it's really, really, we need to get the word out so that persons would know what they need to do and what they need to do to protect their feet. So here, what persons can do. The first thing is, Nurse Smith, Ms. Smith talked about it. 1, diabetes control. Okay, the most important thing to do to protect your feet, get your diabetes under control. Because if your diabetes is under control, then you don't get the complications, okay? You don't get the ulcers, you don't get all those things, those changes that we talked about, those 5 changes we talked about. So making sure that you're doing what she said about the exercise, the eating properly, making sure you're taking your medication, that you're staying in touch with your healthcare team, and you're doing it, you know, because if you're under control, your A1C is less than 7, it's likely that you're not going to get those complications, or they're going to be significantly delayed. Okay. So the next thing is to look at your feet. Every diabetic or their family members have all the tools that they need to protect their feet. 1, make sure your sugar is under control. 2, observe the feet every day. If you can't do it as a diabetic, then you have a daughter, a niece, a friend, whoever it is, to help you to look at the feet. Look at the bottom, look at the top, look in between the toes. And then it's just a quick observation. It may take 30 seconds to make sure that if there's any changes, you will be aware of it and you can get help quickly. The next thing is to prevent injury. You don't want to cause a problem with your feet. Like, for example, a lot of diabetics like to soak their feet in hot water. That's very dangerous, because what happens if they don't have good sensation or feeling in their feet, they can actually cause themselves to get burned. That can turn into a blister, can turn into an ulcer and lead to an amputation. So no soaking the foot in hot water. Okay, the next thing is
Dr. Mitchell, sorry, let me just pause right there. You said you said no soaking the foot in hot water. So like in my mind, like it's something like you hear, okay, man, you had a long day, you soak
it in hot water and Epsom salt.
Soak it in salt water and Epsom salt. So now you're saying that if you are diabetic, that's a no-no.
That's a no-no.
So what is the alternative if you know they want to soak their feet, or you know their feet are tired, or they want to do something? What is the alternative?
What you can do, what I recommend, is taking a bath. So you put the water in the tub. What are we talking about by soaking the feet? It's like when you make that bucket of hot water or a basin of hot water, you plunge your foot down in there.
Right.
The better thing to do is to make a bath. Run the water in the tub and you sit in that tub, because that water is going to relax your whole body. And guess what? Your tushy can't be in no hot water either. So you are not going to sit in no water that's hot, too hot for your butt. If your butt could go in it, your foot could go in it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So put the water in the tub and then you sit in the tub and you have your feet in the water so that you relax your whole body while you're taking that little bath. Okay, rather than soaking the foot in hot water, bucket of hot water. I've had numerous patients who had that problem. So we don't want that. So another way to prevent injury is to make sure that persons do not walk barefoot. Okay, because remember we talk about the nerves being damaged. You could walk on a nail, a tack, something that's in the carpet, or something that is actually can cause problems with the foot. So you don't want to cause that. But the number one cause of injury to the foot is shoes that do not fit properly. So, you know, especially us as women, sometimes we buy shoes that may be a little bit too small. Right. So wear the right size shoe, and then you wear them properly. You don't wear a new shoe. You know, you're going on the march, your church going on a march, and you want to wear a new pair of shoes. No, you wear a shoe that's already to your size and it's comfortable, okay? Because that's what's causing a lot of injury. So you don't want to do that. No barefoot and no tight shoes. And then taking care of your foot, regular hygiene, washing them, drying them properly, putting lotion only on the top and the bottom, not in between the toes, making sure that your nails are clipped properly or filed properly. No acrylic on them toenails.
What?
I know you're gonna stop
they can't wear acrylic on the toenails. That's just beauty. That's just some, make the feet look a little good. So you're saying if you're diabetic, they can't put on acrylic?
No, we don't recommend that. The reason why is because, one, the acrylic, the material that they use, can actually damage the nail and damage the structures around the nail. Some people have allergies. Some people are, they're scratching or from it. And then also it can actually damage the nail underneath it, and then can encourage fungus to occur. And then think about it, Miss Bo, the nail is so much harder when you have that acrylic on it. So if you hit your foot, or if there's an occasion when, especially if it's long, a lot of times it can actually rip that nail right off. Yes, so definitely we don't want to.
But I got something for you.
Case.
I have something for you, Dr. Mitchell.
Yeah.
I from the island too, like dietitian Smith. I'm from the island, and y'all doctors always come with all these things. But you see, I know about bush medicine.
Yes.
And I don't have to go and take all these medicine and things y'all doctors say. And all I need to do is find some bush medicine. What about those people who actually feel that way, and they think that they don't need to really listen to all of this advice? They don't need the medicine, that because you spoke about 55% or so that actually are not taking the medicine, because a large amount of us still believe that God say the healing in the trees,
leaves of the
that's right. So I'm gonna go find me some bush. And so what about those persons who are of that notion?
Well, you know what? A great percentage of medications are actually from plants. So we are not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and say that bush does not work. However, you cannot, the bush that you get from, okay, you just go and pick 10 leaves and you steep it or whatever and drink it like that. That is not the way to do it. You need to be guided through that process in terms of, because if you have diabetes, you already have an illness. So you need to be managed by your physician so that when you're doing the lifestyle changes that Ms. Smith talked about, when you're taking your bush or whatever it is you're doing, you're going to make sure you're not causing more damage. Okay. A lot of bush, if you drink it in high concentration, can actually damage the kidneys. And so we need to pay attention to those things. You know, you can use it in moderation, and then you being monitored by your physician to see how your numbers are and what is going on. There are many persons who take the natural way lifestyle change that end up without having to take any medication because
Right.
they're consistent and they make sure that they can reverse the diabetes, or they're doing what they need to do to make sure that they don't stay on the medication. So definitely, I would advise that they would check with their physician and definitely do that process within the bounds of their medical care. There's no benefit to doing it alone, to go in alone.
Okay,
Yes.
so that means then, Dietitian Smith and Dave, I'm going to let you take over because I know time is going. So in any of your health and wellness remedies and stuff that you have, because I think I heard someone, I don't know if it was you or Dr. Mitchell, in terms of a wellness store or whatever, is there any of in the health benefits or in the recipes or remedies that you have that you incorporate any of the natural plants that we have here in the Bahamas that people may already be trying to use in their health and wellness journey?
Well, I'm not aware of any specifically, but I prefer people to use their food as medicine and their medicine as food. And in addition to the food, the herbs and spices, and especially persons who have diabetes, I like to encourage the use of cinnamon. The cinnamon actually helps to lower the blood sugar levels. And using anti-inflammatory herbs and spices like turmeric and ginger, all of those help. Dr. Mitchell mentioned about the kidneys. Now, you know, with us bush medicine, the use of bush medicine here, we just use it a whole lot, and it could be very detrimental. The thing is, they have not been really studied to like say, or research to say like, you must take a cup of this, you must let it boil for a certain amount of time, and the quantities, all of that hasn't been really studied well to really make it something or a treatment for a particular illness. But as Dr. Mitchell said, you have to work with your healthcare team in order to get the best results to be healthy, basically.
Okay, that is excellent. So I know we're out of time, but Bahamas, let me tell you what I just heard that Dietitian Smith just said, that if you still want your chicken in the bag, you can still get it. Just make sure you get a little salad, and guess what? Sprinkle some cinnamon on your chicken.
A lot of salads.
And you're good to go. So I'm gonna now turn it back over to David Williams, and he will give, I guess, any final comments and thoughts, and allow our guests to also share their final comments and thoughts.
Just before I take it, thanks, Kendra. Just before I take it live off the radio, I want to open up the opportunity for some comments from the audience. The persons may have a question or they want to make a comment. You could unmute your mic. Is there a question or comment you wish to make right now? You have an opportunity to. Okay, that means there's no question or no comment.
All of them wanted to find out about the chicken in the bag, Dave. I think I asked that question for the Bahamian people today.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, so I'm still going to give them another 30 seconds. Anybody else a question or comment you want to ask any one of the doctors on in the house? Okay, if not, I'm going to take us live off the radio. We can still remain for another 10 minutes on Zoom. Okay, but I'll take us live off the radio. Folks, you've been listening to the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5 We here every Sunday 4 to 5. That was my co-host Kendra Bow. She's in place of Jackie. She's in place of Jackie Gardner, who is away on some other duties, doing some other duties today. You know, we're here on this radio every Sunday on the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. We encourage you to tune in, tell a friend, tell somebody else. Go on Facebook, Transforming Lives. Go on YouTube, Uplifting Men, Transforming Lives. Watch the show. You know, if there are any questions. Of course, the doctors know that they're always available for part 2. All they simply have to say to me, you know, Dave, I'd like to do a part 2. But just before you go off, ladies, and only before we go off the radio now, there's some final remarks you'd like to let those persons on the listening on the radio and cable TV 974. What would you say to them?
Okay, so I would say that, hey, your health is very valuable. You are in control of your health. Of course, we want to treat your body as a temple and not as a trash can or as a garbage bin. All right, so be careful of what you put into your body and take care of yourself as best as you can. If you have any symptoms of signs of anything that is not right or that you may see that is not normal, go and seek help and get intervention as soon as possible. And of course, pray to ask God to help you be able to make the choices to live a healthy lifestyle.
I would just like to say thank you for having us. And I would like to say for persons out there, especially who may have foot complaints or challenges with their feet, they must see as a diabetic, you must see a podiatrist at least once per year. And then based on what we find, then it may be more often, or you may be seeing every year. And I would also like to encourage persons, especially around this time of World Diabetes Day, go and get yourself checked. Every Bahamian is at a higher risk for diabetes. So you should have an A1C with your physical. You should have a fasting with your physical every single year. So we know exactly what your risks are and where you are with your health.
Both of you forget to leave some contacts. Quickly leave some contacts. Anybody listening in want to know how to reach any of you.
Okay, I also work at the Ministry of Health. And so my cell phone number actually is 802-3668. That would be the easiest way to get me. Or you can get at the Ministry of Health, 502-4855. As a podiatrist, I work at Bahamas Foot Center or Bahamas Surgical Associate Center. And those are both in the Palmdale area. So you can call there as well.
Okay, so my contacts 428-4251, and you get me there directly, or 803-6543. And I also work at the Ministry of Health. My number there is 322-1020 or 322-1025. You can also hit me up on Facebook. I'm there as Shandera Smith, or I'm also there at Trinity Wellness Center. I have my own nutrition company, so to speak. And so you can find me there on Facebook as well as those numbers that I mentioned.
Okay, just want to thank both of the doctors in the house. Folks, you've been listening to this program, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. As you know, we always seek to share information that helps in the transformation of our life. But of course, the greatest transformation that can take place is when one has a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm not talking about your church. I'm not talking about my church. I'm not talking about your denomination. And I'm not talking about my denomination. I am talking about a relationship with Jesus Christ. And we must have that now. We don't know when we're going to die. So in order to die in Christ, we must live in Christ. Dave Williams, Transforming Lives, Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, every Sunday, 4 to 5. Have a wonderful afternoon. Okay, so folks, we've just signed off live on radio and television. Let me see if there's any comments or any questions before we end this. Okay, just the numbers in the chat. So folks, just before we leave the Zoom, is there any other questions or any comments that anybody want to make? If not, we're gonna sign off. So I'll pause for 30 seconds.
Can we make a comment?
Go ahead.
Okay, I see we didn't really talk about access to care, because that's what the theme is all about today. And what I wanted to say about that is that even though we have excellent health care in our country, there are a lot of persons who do not have access especially to diabetes care. For example, a diabetes educator, both Ms. Smith and I are diabetes educators. And so a part of it is when persons are diagnosed with diabetes, it's important for them to get education about their condition. So in addition to maybe seeing the nutritionist as meal planning and doing all of that, or seeing me as a foot doctor, we also provide education that helps to guide persons through their process of being diagnosed with diabetes and managing their diabetes. So diabetes is managed as a team. You have physicians, you have nurses, you have dietitians, you have podiatrists, you have educators, you have the patient who's the center of that team. Okay, and so it's important that we all work together, and that is how the person will have the best outcome if we all work together to make sure. Now, some of the things why persons don't get the best care, they may not know exactly what all of the persons who in the diabetes care, what services they provide. Like Ms. Boja said, she didn't know about the dietitians or what dietitians do, or a lot of persons don't know what podiatrists do. And so just by not knowing, you may not access the care that you need. In addition to that, persons may have insurance issues or they may have money issues, but most of these services are provided free of charge in our government healthcare system. You can go to even South Beach, or well, soon South Beach, but Elizabeth Estate, Flamingo, Fleming Street, all of these clinics provide all of these services that persons would be able to see a physician, a podiatrist, a nutritionist, whoever they need to see. So we don't want persons to say money or whatever it is has prevented them from getting the care that they need. And then we just gave our numbers, so persons can always call us or email us or reach out to us in some way so that they can get the care that they need. But we want to encourage access, that persons would get the care that they need to help manage their diabetes and to live the best life that they can.
Okay, I just want to thank you for taking the time. We went over a few minutes. Thanks. Of course, there could always be a part two. Just you and Shandera would have to just let me know when you'd like to do part two. And as more things come up in regard to diabetes or anything, as you know how to reach me. Just contact me today if you want to do a program in this regard. Folks, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining us, encouraging you to have a wonderful afternoon.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It was an awesome
Thank
show.
you.
It was a pleasure. And I'm certainly there's something
Thank you.
else we are able to do to raise awareness in this area. So I'd love to partner with that initiative, Dave, in some way.
Excellent.
No problem.